By the end of 2024, Russian forces had formed a relatively stable front south of Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad. Nevertheless, a head-on assault on a large urban agglomeration did not seem very promising to the Russian armed forces commanders. The main forces of the Russian forces were directed to cover Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad in order to cut off the main supply routes of the AFU garrison. While on the western flank, the Russian forces began their offensive towards Kotlin. In the east, they were moving towards the N32 highway linking Mirnohrad with Kostiantynivka. By January 10th, the Russian armed forces had knocked out the enemy from Vozdvizhenka and also approached the eastern outskirts of 𝐔𝐤𝐫𝐚𝐢𝐴. Russian advance groups reached one of the highway junctions. Over the next month, 𝐔𝐤𝐫𝐴 was completely liberated. Russian attack aircraft also cleared the forest belts nearest to the village, providing a more stable supply to the advancing group. At the same time, the Russian armed forces managed to get a grip on the southwestern outskirts of Vodyane-Druhe and consolidate on the achieved positions. Attacks began near Baranivka. By the end of the month, Russian forces had finally liberated Vodyane-Druhe and also knocked the enemy out of Baranivka and Zelene-Pol. By March 6th, it became known that the AFU had managed to retake Yelizavetivka during a counterattack in an attempt to slow down the advance of the Russian armed forces. At the same time, despite the fact that the Russian armed forces were unable to physically cut the N38 highway, the Mirnohrad garrison's communication with Kostiantynivka was actually interrupted. By mid-March, after multiple counterattacks supported by armored vehicles, Ukrainian formations were able to get a grip on Piszczane and Shevchenko, where heavy pitched battles were taking place. Lysivka was abandoned by the Russian armed forces because it is located in a low-lying area and is not very convenient for defense, but is well suited for methodical destruction of the enemy. Nevertheless, the counterattacks of the AFU in the Pokrovsk-Mirnohrad direction achieved only a limited and not very significant effect. The Russian forces temporarily suspended their advance, regrouping their forces and preparing for a new stage of the offensive. Malinivka and Kopcheve are likely to be the main vectors of the Russian armed forces' attack in the Mirnohrad area. The liberation of these settlements will make it possible to pull UAV calculations even closer to the key transportation arteries of the Pokrovsk agglomeration and take the supply routes of the AFU garrison under their visual control.